Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 5th episode of the Sports Hub this semester. I'm Michael Wengrzyn, and alongside me, Alex Strouf and Jackson Jirik. Guys, did you take advantage of the warmer temperatures this past weekend?
I came to the realization that I am becoming an adult. I went for a walk this weekend. That's how nice it was. At 48 degrees on Sunday. I mentioned last week I love jackets and gloves. I didn't need them this weekend. I went on a walk without jackets and gloves.
It was t-shirt weather. I loved it. T-shirt weather in the middle of February. 50 degrees, 48, whatever you want to be. Whatever. It was gorgeous. We enjoyed it.
It's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
Wisconsinites, Minnesotans enjoying the nice weather.
Oh, look at you.
It was a nice change from the single-digit temperatures we had last weekend, definitely for sure. On today's show, we'll be talking about potential changes in the NFL, an XFL quarter season update, Badgers and Bucks basketball seasons so far, and do some buy or sell. Last week, the NFL became the second professional league this month to make news with potential playoff and regular season expansion. On Thursday, the NFL owners approved a new 10-year collective bargaining agreement, which included adding a 7th playoff team in each conference starting next season and adding one more game to the regular season schedule. Guys, what do you think of this action, and do you like the potential changes mentioned?
Yeah, I'll start with this one. So, as a guy who has been constantly nonstop since its inception about the college football playoffs, so against expansion, right? I've always been a fan of the 14 playoff in college football. I really like the exclusivity factor that it brings, right? 4 teams only, that's your cutoff. You don't even get representatives from all Power 5 conferences in college football. I think that's fun. I also think this is really fun for a guy that's been in the past against expansion. Adding a team from each conference to the playoff, making the bye more exclusive, only allowing one per conference. I love the new playoff setup. I'm not a huge fan of the in-season change going from 16 to 17 regular season games. Although as a fan, I would love more football, right? I'm getting 2 extra games on Wild Card Weekend. I'd get an extra week of the regular season. I'm fine with that. Not so fine with 17 regular season games. We talk a lot about player health. I don't know how much that makes sense. I wouldn't complain, but I don't know how necessary it is, but I am really happy with the fact that they would be taking away 1 preseason game as well. So go from 4 to 3 preseason games and then 16 to 17 regular season games. And then obviously, like I mentioned, 2 extra wild card games, Wild Card Weekend. So it's not ginormous expansion. I like most of it, not all of it, but I'm all in on the playoff setup. I love that. The 1 seed gets the bye in each conference, 2 through 7 play in Wild Card Weekend. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that part. The playoffs, we saw a lot of great playoff football this year. The Titans made their run all the way to the AFC Championship game. Saw some great games in the NFC side of things. The biggest thing for me is obviously the playoff expansion. You got to love it. You get 2 extra games, Wild Card Weekend. Everyone loves playoff football. It's just higher intensity. But don't fix what's not broke is a big thing coming from me because, we saw a lot of great games. Yes, there is the possibility of more great games with this expansion, but the exclusivity you talk about in college football, I think that has to be a factor in this because it is 6 teams. You're only going up to 1. It's not like 6 to 8, and it's not, if the college football expansion were to go from 4 to 8. It is exclusivity for the 6 teams that make it. I do like the bye that comes in with it for the number 1 seed, but the regular season, I don't like. You and I are agreeing on a lot of things here, and that's good, but at the same time, it's, for me, don't fix what's not broke. We saw a lot of great football. Don't need to change that. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I agree with the whole preseason stuff. That week 17, week 18, it's going to be crazy. We're going to see a lot of implications going into it. A lot of players are going to play their guts out and have fun with it. It'll be interesting if teams will play their starters to, maybe get a 2 seed instead of a 3 seed. Not that they would, they will still play. They'll have home field advantage. They'll still get to pick their opponent. So it'll be interesting in that aspect. But do those players play? Obviously, if you have a chance at a 1 seed, you're going to want to play those players because that's an extra week that you get off, and that's huge. We saw for the Ravens, obviously maybe not for them because they were hot at the whole season. That week kind of slowed them down, but it did allow their players to get healthy. So, it's kind of that toss-up of, hey, do we want a week off so our players can rest, or do we want to get right back into the swing of things the following week because we're hot, we're playing our best football, we want to continue to play our best football. And honestly, I think that's what we saw in the Kansas City Chiefs this year was because they were hot. Patrick Mahomes came in and he was on fire, and I think we saw that throughout the NFL playoffs. And implementing this new season, it would be interesting because, if you're the Chiefs and you have the opportunity to get that 1 seed, do you want to go for it? Do you want to wait and not play it and continue to play throughout the year? It'll be interesting. It's a big question. It's a big change. Not a huge change, it's a big change. The other thing is players' health. When I mentioned the Week 17, Week 18, those guys are going to be playing hard. Are you going to risk injuring yourself to get that 1 seed, or do you want to take that week off so you're in the playoffs? It'll be interesting to see what happens.
I mean, it's all implication-based, right?
Of course.
It goes down to what is the scenario. Now, Kansas City absolutely play for the 1 seed because they were the 2 seed in a year where the top 2 seeds got the bye. So Kansas City and San Francisco, both Super Bowl representatives, were on the bye. We know how important the bye is in the postseason. Only one team that had a bye this year lost in the first round that they played, and that was Baltimore, as mentioned. Green Bay, San Francisco, and Kansas City all had byes, and they all advanced. We know how important they are, and now that we're making this more exclusive, right? Only one team gets a bye rather than 2. You're going to play way harder to get that bye, and assuming that it does come down to the aforementioned implications, absolutely you're going to go for it. Now, when it comes down to the 6 teams that remain, right, the 2 through 7 seeds, there's going to be implications all over the place because now you could get 4 teams realistically from the same division in. Right? You could have the 1 seed, the 5 seed, the 6 seed, and the 7 seed. It won't happen, but when you think about it that way, I mean, this year, the NFC West would have had 3 playoff teams. We had it expanded to a 7 seed. The Rams would have snuck in there at the 7 seed. So it makes it really, really interesting because we know how lopsided many, if not most years are in the NFL, right? You have a really, really good division. You have a really, really crap division. The NFC East sucked this year.
Oh,
but
horrible.
The NFC West was terrific. The NFC North was competitive for the most part, obviously. 2 teams getting in there. In the AFC, we always know the AFC West is an absolute blowout. New England comes out. Obviously, Buffalo had a good year. The AFC South is always very interesting, especially when Andrew Luck was still in the league. I mean, every year it seems like there's a division who could legitimately have 3 contenders in it. So now that we have 3 wild card spots that are not earned by winning your division, I think that also makes it very interesting to see, okay, maybe this team stuttered weeks 9 through 12, but they've really picked it back up as of late, and now they've snuck into a playoff spot. Can they get through anybody like they've shown the last 5 weeks, right? It's all implication-based, and I think this only makes things better for the National Football League.
I agree with you because one of those teams that I saw last year was the Pittsburgh Steelers. They were a team that at the end of the season, they looked like they could have beat anyone.
Yeah.
They were that type of team where they struggled in the beginning. What were they, like 1-4, I want to say? They had a very slow start, and then they obviously had that midseason drama with the Browns, but at the end of the season, their defense was terrific. I mean, they looked great. They looked like a team that could have beat anyone. And if we would have had this last year, they would have been in. They would have been the 7 seed. And honestly, if I was a 2 seed and I was playing them, I would have been scared.
Kansas City versus Pittsburgh probably would have been a more fun game in the wild card round than most expect. So, no, I'm 100% with you. I think this is ultimately a really, really good move for the NFL. Obviously, J.J. Watt gave a hard no to this. Which I find intriguing because obviously he is one of the defensive faces of the league. But the guy hasn't stayed healthy the last few years. Yeah. So regardless, so when he's talking about health, obviously I feel for him and understand him, the former Wisconsin Badger. So overall, I'm a fan. As a fan, I'm a fan as a media member. But I think as a player, you're up in the air because that extra game is something they've pushed long for not to happen. Now that the owner said, yes, let's go for it, it is intriguing to see what their stance will be as obviously this moves forward. And Mike, I think you know what the next steps are.
Definitely. It's an interesting development here, but the approval for the new CBA is going to require further evaluation, as Alex mentioned, as voting by the Players Association on Friday was postponed, and the current CBA agreement runs through March of next year. Now we're going to shift our focus to a football league whose season is currently in action, as the XFL has completed a quarter of its 10-week regular season. In the standings, the Houston Roughnecks are the only remaining undefeated team with a 3-0 record, while teams such as the St. Louis Battlehawks and DC Defenders are also sitting with the winning record. With the Wild Week 3 of action, What are your guys' observations from the league so far, and are there any, if any, difficulties that you could see further down the road?
Sure, I'm going to go with that first half of the question, observations, right? Parity is alive in the league. You mentioned DC, the Defenders, as a really good team. They came into the week 2-0. They got blown out by a previously 0-2 teams in the 0-2 team, in the LA Wildcats. The Wildcats look like garbage. They fired their offensive coordinator after week 1, and then they go out and stomple. Is that even a word? Stomple the DC Defenders 39-9. So I think really it proves anything is possible so far in this league because we know so little, and the action has been so exciting. Another observation, St. Louis, the Battlehawks, you mentioned them. They're also 2-1. They returned for their home opener in St. Louis this week. St. Louis proved they are loyal as they come. They will support their local team, and they showed out, man. I mean, the Battlehawks were walking through waves of fans before their game in week 3. And St. Louis, this is the first time pro football has been back in 3 years. So obviously they are very excited, the St. Louis faithful are. Now the difficulties down the road is sustaining viewership. Obviously we know ratings have taken a slight dip since week 1, but they're still there. I mean, they're still getting views, which is obviously a improvement from the 2001 launch of the XFL. I said this a couple weeks ago, I'll say it again, and I'll continue to say it as the course of this season goes on. Vince McMahon and company took their time. They announced the relaunch of the XFL in the fall of 2017. That was 2.5 years ago. Now with the launch coming out, and we've seen the successes that the XFL have had, it's going to be interesting. Now the thing I'm curious about is, because I do think they'll get through the first full season, is what does the relationship of the NFL and XFL become? Right? Because they are not corresponding seasons. They don't overlap at all. And obviously the XFL is on the same channels as the NFL, CBS, Fox, ESPN. I mean, so there is a relationship to be built here, whether it becomes a minor league, whether it becomes a developmental league with the NFL. There is a relationship to be had here, and I'm curious what happens following the season. I think that would be a roadblock if that never happens, if a relationship is never built.
It'll be interesting to see what relationship is built, but observations from the first 3 weeks is I love being able to hear from players after plays happen. The kickoff return was cool to see. You know, we get literally a bench interview with the player who returns.
Joe Powell.
Yeah. There
Joe
you go.
Powell.
We get to see that happen. I think that's super cool. I think it's good for the fans. We get to see how it works inside the lines. It's good in that aspect, but the ratings did dip, as Alex mentioned. It'd be interesting to see if they can maintain that throughout this whole year. I think they will be able to, but as time goes on, I think it'll slowly go downhill for them, and that is where we might see that relationship between the XFL and the NFL be brought in as a developmental league or as a minor league where players, you know, maybe they're older, like you said earlier, they go play in the XFL because they can't play at the same level in the NFL, or it's a developmental league where we have younger guys who aren't maybe ready for the NFL yet, coming out of college, like Cordell Jones, who was in the NFL for a little bit, struggled, now he's in the XFL, lighting it up, and he's doing a great job. Maybe it'll be time for him to go back in the NFL if, you know, one of the teams want to take a chance on him. And I think we could see that in a lot more cases than people think, is because there's a lot of good players in the XFL. And I think people are shooting that, or not allowing them to realize that, because the XFL has talent. There's no doubt about that. They also have a lot of stupid players. But it's what makes the XFL great, because it's fun. What?
Stupid players.
Stupid players.
Yeah,
okay,
I think with the NFL's training camp coming up, I think that makes sense. Obviously, you will see guys get signed. They'll be brought into training camp. They'll be brought into practice squads. I mean, obviously, your roster goes from 53 to 95 in training camp. So, yeah, we saw it with the AAF. I'm sure we'll see it again with the XFL.
Yeah, you guys got a little heated right there. We'll say this too, real quick. Ratings could take a dip once March Madness and the baseball season starts up in the MLB as well. We're going to take our first time out here on the Sports Hub, and then when we return, we'll take a look at the Bucks and Badgers basketball programs so far this season. This is the Sports Hub on SPTV.
I just wanted to get good grades and to do well, but it also made me realize that I have a lot of career goals.
You're there to get a full college experience, not only participate in your sport, but participate in things outside of that, and it's all about growing as a person.
My coaches have helped me with figuring out who I really am. Their lives are dedicated for us to succeed.
Welcome back into the Sports Hub. Since the departure of Kobe King, the Wisconsin Badgers basketball program has won its last 5 out of 6 games throughout the month of February. Junior Nate Ravers leads the team in points, rebounds, and field goals, while junior Demetric Trice leads in three-pointers and assists. The Badgers currently ride on a 4-game win streak and are in a 4-way tie for second in the Big Ten Conference. Guys, what are your thoughts on the turnaround and have the Badgers gone from, shall we say, pretender to a contender?
I'm gonna comment on that first. I never thought they were necessarily a pretender, Mike. I think when you look at the Badgers, we know they were capable of big things, right? We look at the, I believe it was the end of December when they went to Ohio State, when the Buckeyes were ranked number 5 in the nation, and the Badgers knocked them off. We were talking a few weeks ago about, is there a culture problem in Madison? I think Greg Gard has said, who are those kids from Stevens Point, right? Because no, I don't think there is. Obviously, they've proved it winning 5 of their last 6. It was a big concern when Kobe King decided to leave. I mean, he was first in minutes. He was second in points per game. We knew this guy was a huge, if not the biggest contributor to the Badgers' success early in the season. But since, as you mentioned, since the departure of Kobe, 5 of 6 wins in the last, obviously, 6. So I think they're pulling it together. They're finally finding their identity. They're knowing what they are and what they are capable of. They're right there. They're right in the Big Ten race. They're right up there. So I think they have now made the case of being as high as a 5 or 6 seed in the NCAA tournament as it stands right now. If they rattle off a really good run in the Big Ten tournament, maybe they're even up to a 4 seed. I mean, NCAA basketball, and we've talked about this just about every week of the show since the season started, it's been one of the weirdest seasons with the most parity that I remember since I've been watching this for the last 15 years. I mean, seriously, it's been absolutely unreal to see number 1 fall after number 1 fall after number 1 fall after number 1 fall after number 1 fall. I mean, it has been absolutely a nuts season. And the Badgers have contributed to that. And they've won big games. They've won close games. They've lost close games. They've been blown out. But this team has really ridden a wave the last couple of weeks. And if they can keep this momentum going in their direction, I mean, this team is capable of making a serious run. I don't think they're national championship level. I don't think they're Final Four level. But I think potentially a Sweet 16 run. I think Elite 8 might be a little too much, but a Sweet 16 run is definitely plausible.
Definitely. They played a great game on Sunday against Rutgers. It was a close game in the end. They closed it out. Very good game at home for themselves. Almost lost it, but like you said, they won close games. They've lost close games. This was one where they won. A good win at home. Conference game, obviously. They're looking good, and that's the good thing. You mentioned the culture issue. I think they took care of that. I think they probably had a team meeting where it was like, listen, if you guys don't want to be here, don't play here. Because we want guys that want to be here. We want guys that are going to play their hearts out on our court. And that's what we've seen in the last 6 games, winning 5 of their last 6. And like you mentioned, they're a team that has the capability of making that deep run. Will they be able to do it? Who knows? They could make a good Big Ten run. That would be great for them. It'll be interesting to see what happens. We got a lot of good players going right now, playing great basketball. Playing basketball that the Badgers have a very good chance of bringing into that tournament if they can make a good run. A 4 seed would be great. I don't think they're going to get that high. I think it's more going to be a 6, right around there. And when that comes, they'll probably win their first game. Who knows? It's March. As you said, anything can happen. March has been crazy. We've seen in the past. And this year is
absolutely no exception, right?
So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. This March is going to be wild. I mean, it's going to be interesting. Honestly, I could see we could see a 6 seed make it all the way to the national championship. Wouldn't be surprising.
I don't think so.
Not at all.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think it'd be surprising.
Oh,
no, I think that's the way that this year has trended. Is something nuts is bound to happen. Somebody weird is going to win the national title. I mean, Kansas looked really good the other night, but I mean, you've got a slew of teams, right? We know San Diego State has been really good all year long. Several other teams. Dayton has been really good. It's a really weird year of college basketball, and I love it. I mean, I'm glued to my TV all week when these primetime games are on because You know something crazy is going to happen. It's one of those years, and I can't get the smile off my face because I love college basketball.
It's going to be interesting. That Monday night class that we have together at the last 8 weeks, we're going to be watching college basketball during it. It's going to be fun.
Sorry, Rhonda.
Yeah, we apologize ahead, but it'll be interesting. It'll be fun to watch. March Madness. Get ready.
I think Rhonda will be okay if people were watching basketball, although I can't say that for sure because I'm not Rhonda Sprague. So. Meanwhile, though, the Badgers are currently 10-6 in the Big Ten and 17-10 overall. They will be on the road to face Michigan, who is currently on a 5-game win streak on Thursday night.
Should be a good one.
Should be a good one indeed. The Milwaukee Bucks, now switching to professional leagues, are also continuing their winning ways as they are the first team in the NBA to clinch a playoff spot this season. The Bucks hold the best record in the NBA with 48 wins and 8 losses through 56 games, while holding a 6.5-game lead over the Raptors for the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Reigning MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo is averaging 30 points and 30 minutes per game, along with 13.6 rebounds. Guys, do you see the Bucks playing out the rest of the regular season differently?
Absolutely not. I mean, there was no reason to. Giannis, clear favorite for the MVP once again this year. Just a clear favorite. I mean, think about that. There's still 26 games left in the regular season. The Bucks have already clinched a playoff spot.
Earliest in NBA history as well.
Correct. That's absolutely freaking nuts. I mean, this team is just playing at even a higher level than they were a year ago. We know how good they were last year, right? They were a game away from the finals. And I don't see them not being there yet again this year. I mean, this team literally has a very good chance to win 70 games at least. I mean, seriously, it's an unreal run. It's the best team in the East by a mile, potentially, if not the best team in the whole league by far. I mean, they are playing so well. It's ridiculous. Chris Middleton having just a terrific year. You mentioned the numbers that Giannis has put up, and I don't think that gets enough love. The guy's averaging 30 and 14, playing only 30 minutes a game. That's 3 quarters. I mean, less than 3 quarters. So how do you not love that? I mean, it's just absolutely nuts to see what this team is doing. There's no way they're going to play out the rest of the regular season differently.
I think they're just going to continue to produce 70 wins, pushing it, but I do think they are a team that has the capability of doing that. I don't know if they'll get there. It'll be interesting to see how it is. This team is like the Warriors. They're crazy. They're good. Expected to make it to the finals, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see because they were 1 game away last year. I think they're hungry. I think they're that team that we got a chip on our shoulder. We're going to play hard. We're going to play like that, and Giannis is proving it. Less than 3 quarters, averaging that. It's crazy. It's good to see that. Easy MVP. It'll be, I mean, the only other candidate really is LeBron James, and that's if he plays at that level, which I don't think he will. It'll be interesting to see how that goes on the other side of things for him. But for the Bucks, it's just continue to produce at the level that they're producing at and continue to play behind Giannis, who's leading this team. And he's playing like Fred VanVleet did after he got his kid. I mean, everything's going in for him. He's looking like a monster out there. He's a beast. Can't say enough about him. He's a guy that, easy MVP favorite right now, probably going to win it without a doubt. And for the Bucks, just continue to play the way they're playing. I mean, nothing's stopping them right now. Don't shoot yourselves in the foot by choking late in the season or in the playoffs.
I mean, we could talk about how good Toronto is all day, but they don't come near Milwaukee. They don't come near Milwaukee.
And it does help, too, that the Bucks have had such a great supporting cast this year as well behind Giannis. A lot of great guys on the floor and even off the bench as well for Milwaukee. Bucks will travel to the nation's capital for a game against the Washington Wizards tonight at 6 p.m. We'll take our final time out here on the Sports Hub, and then when we return, we'll do some good old buy or sell. This is the Sports Hub on SPTV.
UW-Stevens Point is home.
It's a university where professors know your name and get you involved in research.
They inspire us to realize big dreams.
At UW-Stevens Point, sustainability is what we stand for.
Our beautiful campus encourages exploration, developing new fields, and problem solving for the real world.
It's a great place to launch your career.
UW-Stevens Point is home.
Apply today at uwsp.edu.
College has given me the flexibility to pursue my passions and my interests, and I've recreated my identity for myself aside from just being an athlete.
My greatest personal discovery has been that I am capable of doing things that I didn't know I was capable of doing.
To be able to study what I wanted to and continue to play the sport I love, all of those things came together very nicely in one package in Division III.
Welcome back to the Sports Hub. To finish off the show, we'll do some good old buy or sell. First one, Alex Ovechkin, who just scored his 700th career goal, will score at least 15 more goals this season.
I'm gonna need to buy that. He's on an absolute tear. The Capitals are looking like they know what they're capable of. We saw it 2 years ago. So, yeah, Ovechkin's been absolutely tearing up the NHL this year. I'll buy that.
Easily going to buy that. I'd say he could score 50 more, or not 50, 20 more goals, but
say that's an unreal pace right there.
Wow, it's Alexander Ovechkin. The
That's
guy's
fair.
crazy good.
True.
He's unbelievable. Ovi is the face of the NHL in my opinion right now, just because of how good he is. He's a leader for the Capitals. We saw it 2 years ago, as he mentioned, when they won the Cup. Finally got his ring. 15 goals, easily going to buy that.
I will buy that as well. The Capitals are in a win-now mode, and obviously Ovechkin's career total right now is just part of the icing on their cake this season. Next one, a little bit of baseball news for the Milwaukee Brewers, as free agent signing Brock Holt will be an impact player for the Brewers this season.
How can't he be? I mean, this guy's a Swiss Army knife. He's a world champion. He's capable of being a very high-tier player, and that's what he's going to be in Milwaukee. So I'm huge on the signing. I think this is, I'm very disappointed overall in Milwaukee's offseason, but I couldn't be happier with this move. I think this is a piece that they absolutely needed for a team that's been on the verge for so many years, or at least the last 2 years. So although their offseason overall wasn't super impressive, this signing was big as we get into spring training. So I was really happy with this. I'll buy that.
I'm going to buy it with you. I think this was something that they needed to do. He's a guy that's young. He plays hard. He comes from a winning culture over in Boston. I think he's going to bring a little bit of leadership with him. I think they needed to have that. Brock Holt brings that. And I agree, the Brewers did not have a lot going on this offseason. Anything other than him really didn't happen. They lost guys. They freed up space, yes, but they didn't really bring anything back other than Holt. And I think this is a huge signing for the Brewers because it kind of fills a gap in the infield that they needed to fill. They need some more pieces, but they didn't get that in the offseason, so we'll see what they do this season. You mentioned the last 2 years they've been right on the verge. I think they had a few key pieces to Christian Yelich and some other players there, and we could see the Brewers make a run. Obviously, we know they lost the Nationals, but I'm going to buy it. It'll be interesting to see what they do this season.
I will buy that as well. Milwaukee had a great move. They signed him for cheap. They pulled like a little bit of a Brook Lopez move that the Bucks did a couple years ago. Got a player like him for cheap and on a good deal. Finally, here's an interesting one. The Green Bay Packers will host an NFL draft in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I got tricked by this one this weekend. Kyle Cousineau, the mayor, not the real mayor, of Packers Twitter, tweeted that he got the information they will be hosting it in 2022. Jason Wallers, the VP of Communication for the Packers, came out and said, nah, we haven't been approved of that yet, though we are still in the race. So for that reason, and that reason only, Jason, Kyle, I still think there's a chance for 2022. I'm going to buy it because that's my hometown, and go Pack. So 2022 or 2024 at the latest. We'll see the NFL draft in Green Bay.
I'm going to buy it. I don't have anything to say because it's Green Bay and I don't like the Packers.
All right, well, you're entitled to that opinion. I mean, it may be wrong, but you're entitled to it. I'm going to buy that as well. I don't think it's going to be 2022, but I think 2024 possibly.
Yeah, that would make sense as well.
Green Bay isn't necessarily a big market like other previous NFL draft cities, but nonetheless, it would be really cool for the NFL and for everybody in Green Bay. That's all we have on today's show. I'd like to thank Alex and Jackson for joining me today, as well as a big thank you to our technical staff and all their hard work to make this show possible. Be sure to check out our Facebook page at SPTV UWSP Television. Follow us on Instagram at SPTV_UWSP, and check out our Twitter pages as well. Lastly, go to the UWSP Athletics page for all things Pointer Sports. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next episode of the Sports Hub.
Love you.